Shamangelic Healing Podcast is designed as a platform to share authentic conversations about real life issues, providing you with valuable resources and tools to support you in shining your most authentic self, creating a thriving life that you absolutely love, and to support you in manifesting your soul's mission. Welcome to this episode of the Shamangelic Healing Podcast with Anahata Ananda. Thank you so much for joining today. I always value your time and energy for tuning in. Today, my guest is Daniel Posney, a dear soul brother from Sedona. He is a colleague here that does amazing work with men and women and couples to really heal core wounds and step into their most radiant power. I know you're going to love him. Today, our episode is about balancing the feminine and masculine and how each of us as men and women can be more whole when our conscious, awake, divine feminine and our conscious, awake, divine masculine is integrated, thriving, and working in a sacred union together. I know you're going to love this, so let's check it out. Welcome to the Shamangelic Healing Podcast. I'm your hostess, Anahata Ananda, and I'm here with a beautiful, dear, local Sedona soul brother, Daniel Posney, and we're going to explore the beautiful balance between the feminine and the masculine. And this is such a juicy topic, and I thought of nobody else better than you to share this with me, somebody who is walking that balance of the feminine and masculine and who teaches about this, and we're just going to have fun exploring it.
Oh, yeah. We always do.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for our connection because we have been weaving that. Our connection is that balance of feminine and masculine within each of us.
I love that we're doing similar things in Sedona, that we're both kind of working with these people and these people, and we're both on the same frequency about things. That's why it's so easy to be with you and
right?
Talk with you and chat with you and spend time with you.
Thank you, thank you. Likewise. So let's just dive into this whole thing about feminine and masculine. And just to be clear for those people listening and watching, this is about the feminine and the masculine that is inside men and women.
Yes.
Because we have each both a feminine aspect and a masculine aspect. And whether or not it's balanced and talking to each other and getting along.
That's another story.
That's another story. That's why we're doing this. And what gets in the way of that so that we can feel more whole, that our feminine and our masculine are coming together in a wholeness, and then we're bringing that out into the world. So let's start with the ladies, the feminine, and let's just kind of explore what that looks like when it's not so healthy, the feminine, for men and women, where it's not so healthy.
Yeah.
What do you think that looks like?
Well, the way I look at it is like when a woman is in her unbalanced or wounded feminine, I think of like two girls in 7th grade, and they're like, I can't believe that bitch wore that same dress.
Catty, right.
And victim.
Right, and men can be catty too,
totally.
right?
Yeah.
This is like, okay.
It can be.
So catty and gossipy.
Spiteful.
Insecure.
Vengeful a little bit. Yeah. Cliquey.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that unhealthy feminine is also a lot of drama, and a lot of, the healthy feminine might have more natural emotional balance. The unhealthy feminine has a lot more like emotional drama, in an unhealthy way. We all go through waves, but I mean, this is like, this is a reality TV kind of drama.
Right, exactly. And I've seen like the women that I've worked with that have experienced that unbalanced feminine. It feels very unsupportive, and so it lends them to go this other way and become more unbalanced.
Yeah.
But being in a balanced feminine, it's a very supportive, nurturing, loving, we're all working together kind of thing. But in the unbalance, it's very much like you don't feel like you can be with it, get the support from another woman.
Right, or another man, from anybody, and so then there's the overcompensating by throwing an adult tantrum. And men and women throw adult tantrums, and so that's where the emotions are really not so evolved. They're kind of more childlike or junior high, as you said. What are other qualities that you think are kind of identified with the unhealthy feminine?
I know
in
that
men or women.
I know we're talking about women, but I know that when I get into the unbalanced feminine, I get a little bit like I'm going to take this away from her, or like what's it? I'm run away,
Hiding,
or like
yeah.
she's not getting sex tonight.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
So withholding.
Yeah,
So that kind of
withholding.
withholding.
Yeah,
So this, she holding back on her love, man or a woman kind of holding back.
yeah,
Or being cold or frigid or shut
manipulative.
down,
Yeah,
manipulative. And the feminine does that in kind of a passive aggressive
yeah,
way,
that's yeah.
where you don't like bless your heart.
Oh, I
You
just love
sweetheart, I love
that.
you. And then
Right.
really, I'm stabbing your back, sleeping with your husband.
Yeah,
And so that's kind of like this shadow side of any of our unhealthy feminine.
yeah.
What else do you think is with the unhealthy
Well, I don't know
feminine?
if you hit on it, but gossipy.
Yeah,
Like just
gossipy,
rehashing
insecure.
the same drama over and over and telling
Yeah.
that story over and over again.
Right. Along with unhealthy emotions, that can actually lead to depression, and that aspect of anybody listening or watching that is going through kind of those lower emotional frequencies where the emotion gets to the point where kind of the sadness is kind of
Starts to
a
go
real
down.
real
Yeah.
downward spiral.
Yeah, it's hard to come out of
sure.
that, especially if you can just really, if you really connect with that there was this big damage done to you, and you know that kind of thing. It's
Victim
hard.
mentality is a
Yeah,
big one.
yeah,
The victim that not being empowered but really being in that unhealthy version of everything's happening to me and nobody
I can't believe it
cares.
was done in this way,
Yeah,
and pulling all the details about that thing, it just creates this big energy ball of that one little
Right,
scene.
right. And so this is where the unhealthy feminine kind of sit. And so what does that look like? And we may find some other things, of course. But what are some of the things that is more of what the healthy feminine looks like, do you think?
Very nurturing, and you know what I was thinking about? You know, in the have you seen the Hobbit movies?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
of course, of
so
course.
there's a scene in there, maybe it's Uma Thurman or something, and they're in the forest, and she comes down from the tree, and she's in this white
Oh,
dress.
yes,
Remember that
yes,
scene?
yes, yes.
And all the guys are like they're drooling, and she's beautiful, but it's more her, not so much her beauty, it's just her presence. She walks in this confident power.
Yeah.
And when I think about like the balanced feminine, the power of that, it's there's nothing to fight against.
Yeah.
It's all nurturing. It's very mothering, receiving, nurturing, nature
Yeah.
kind of feeling.
This is the goddess,
Yeah,
you
the
know,
goddess,
and the
yeah.
priestess. Because if we're talking
Yeah.
about the awakened or the divine feminine, there is some connection to the essence of divinity.
Mm.
And that doesn't mean chastity by any means, but it means like a higher, pure expression of a sense of self that is connected to something greater. I always feel
Like
like this
exalted or something.
exalted, and
Yeah.
also that knowing that not less than, I am totally of, you know.
I am. This is the way I'm expressing myself. This
Yeah.
is who I am. Yeah.
Right? So that goddess energy, definitely nurturing, that we kind of associate maybe with like a Mother Mary,
Yeah.
or that compassionate that we might associate with like a Kuan Yin goddess energy that is compassionate. I often think of peace definitely with the divine feminine, is that she's at peace. Doesn't matter what chaos is happening around. She doesn't go into the unhealthy feminine that is the worrier or the
Yeah.
fusser, you know, that it's like, oh, you know, in this place of fear and anxiety, because she's at peace. She can be fluid and kind of go with things. She's able to adapt, very flexible, like the water element. And okay, if the weather changes or this timeline changes or this
There's
relationship
no hard
is
angles.
changing,
Yeah.
no hard angles, very fluid.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that picture? You know when we had that Occupy movement
Yeah,
happening? So there's a picture of this woman, and she's on like a college campus, and they're having a big demonstration, and there are rows of like SWAT riot
Wow,
police, and they're all in their rubber
Gear.
helmets and gear and everything, and there's two guys like going like this right at her, and there's this petite African American woman, and she's standing there in her dress, and she's got her hands on top of each other, and she's just standing there in this, like even just talking about it sends chills up my
Yeah.
spine, of her presence and her divine feminine nature, just being there, like you said, no matter what the scene is, she's in there going, I'm in it.
Right. And this
Yeah.
is grace, I feel. Like
Grace,
one
a
of the
good word.
words that I think really embodies that or represents those qualities is being in grace and being in harmony and acceptance. Not in argument with what happens or what is happening, because it's what's happening. If the
Yeah.
weather is what it is, this relationship it is what it is, this addiction is what it is, this person is where they're at, there's this level of acceptance.
You don't have to love it,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
happening,
It just,
and
it is what it is.
Yeah.
And the posture, the mudra that I think really goes with that is hands like this, which is just heart open and allowing. And the unhealthy feminine might be, the pointing and the
Yeah.
hands crossed and, tapping the foot with impatience and drama about it. And she's just in grace. Oh, this is happening. Okay.
Yeah.
And patience is another quality I think the feminine, the healthy feminine really embodies, as well as really, in addition to patience, just kind of this serenity and listening. I think you said earlier, like receptive. Definitely, with the palms open like that, receptive. She's able to receive. She's the chalice.
Yeah.
So she receives divine guidance. She receives intuition.
Intuition, yeah, yeah. Feeling into her body, using her body as a communication to feel how she really feels instead of getting lost in her own thoughts.
Right.
Or
So
his.
that would be the sensitivity. That would be the
Yeah.
sensitivity. For men or women, the part of us that is the healthy sensitive and has a healthy ebb and flow with our relations to our emotions.
Yeah.
That we honor the ebb and flow of our relationships. The divine feminine doesn't stuff that. She is alive and juicy because of that. In men and women, when we're not allowing our emotions to flow is where we tend to create more chaos internally or externally. So sensitivity, which especially for men as kids, don't cry, don't feel, don't talk about it. Some real programming there, I would imagine, to
Yeah.
oppress the feminine within to not feel or cry or be sensitive.
Yeah, and all that is tied in with us expressing ourselves.
Yeah.
And if we're got our expressions and our creativity locked up in for fear of being judged or whatever, that's a real lockdown.
Right.
Doesn't feel good at all.
Right. And within that sits the creativity, like you said. Is that this is where we get to explore and express who we are. This is where the fun is. This is
Yeah.
where the joy is, the bliss is, instead of the guilt and shame that are the lower, unhealthy feminine qualities. To actually be in joy and bliss are those healthy emotions. And if those are blocked, then we don't actually get to feel those higher frequencies that are available in life. And that's all coming
Yeah.
through the feminine side.
Excuse me. And it just keeps on getting more and more blocked off. You just get more and more used to blocking out those emotions. It becomes normal.
Right, so this whole part of ourself, because I look at it as kind of 4 quadrants, where the whole left side of the body, which is more associated with the feminine. So if you're having ailments or injuries a lot of times on the left side of the body, that's likely that something is out of balance or blocked on the left side. And it's the right side of the brain, which is more our creativity, our expanded, our ability to see bigger picture and, think outside the box. That's that whole right side of the brain. And so when I'm feeling stifled there, I know that then there's going to be an injury or something
coming
like,
out.
yeah.
Energy locked up.
Yeah, so that's all the feminine is kind of being receptive and nurturing and creative and gentle and peaceful and graceful. Lovely qualities. And men and women need that to feel a sense of calmness inside. And men and women need that connection to their intuition because that's how we make choices, good choices anyway.
Yeah. Have you ever, I'm sure you have. I just noticed that when I have clients that are, they're stuck in life and they don't know how to go forward and they're trying to create a book or something and they just don't know how to do it, that they also have problems in that area of their body,
Right,
like their
right.
second chakra.
Yeah.
And like they've got stomach issues and they're having trouble like moving forward and
Yeah,
things. And
uh-huh.
like once you activate that part of you, it starts to really blossom into this creative, like especially with women that are trying to become pregnant.
Right.
If they're heavily in their masculine and haven't
Sure.
activated that divine feminine,
Right.
it's hard to, like, this is the place where you create life.
Right, and
No.
I actually have had a client who was having fertility issues, and this is when we connected. Is that she was having fertility issues, and she was work,
Yep.
and I
Yep.
said, hey, you and your husband just need to take a vacation and nurture and play. And she's like, what? I don't understand. And I said, that's your prescription: nurture, play, go take some time off. Well, I've got to work. And like, well, that's not the maternal energy.
Yeah.
And this, for men and women, we can tend to not allow playfulness or creativity or
Yeah.
flexibility or nurturing to happen because we're so much overcompensating
Yeah.
with the masculine. And in that process, of course, she got pregnant. Just exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah.
In fact, their daughter, and who I got in the session, actually got to sense this life form that was just waiting for mother and father to align.
That's
so
what I
she
was
could
just
be
thinking.
receptive
Right.
to the vibrations of, like, look, I don't want to come into
It's out here
two
waiting.
masculine energies that aren't
Right.
going to be nurturing for me. Somebody's
Right.
going to have to change here.
Right.
And they both shifted a lot. And so actually, their daughter just had their birthday.
Wow,
You know,
right.
actually 3 weeks ago. So it's funny
Right.
you mention that. That's a wonderful example of where, or where if we're blocking some aspect of the feminine, we're probably blocking our creativity, our ability to adjust and adapt if we're too linear, and to be sensitive to what's happening or being compassionate to what's happening with ourselves or with the situation or with somebody else. And,
Yeah.
a lot of times with people that are trying to find their soul path or their soul mission have this part of their intuition blocked off. And I'm like, you can't go forward with your soul mission without being connected to that inner guidance and being receptive, which is the
Yeah.
feminine aspect of being open to hear divine guidance of your higher self or soul or whatever you call that, to be able to move that energy forward without connection to that and receptivity to that, you won't be able to find or stay
Yeah.
on your soul mission.
Yeah, you can tell when that's happening because those people are, like, kind of bypassing the softness part of it.
Yeah.
Just to, like, be in the, what am I feeling in this before? I don't even know how to get there, but let's just be in how it feels, or
Yeah.
what emotions are coming up. That's the part that's all linked to that.
Right. And for men and women, I think we've turned, have had a tendency through socialization to turn that down. And because of the unhealthy patterns of ignoring or being a drama queen or having these drama emotions or sedating or doing those power plays works sometimes. Throwing a tantrum actually works sometimes because people just don't want to deal with it, so they just
Yeah.
enable it, which allows a man or a woman to become a grown adult still throwing tantrums, and
Yeah.
it gets socially reinforced when you act like that. Sometimes you get your way, and so the disadvantage of that is a lot of the social programming and reinforcement is kind of keeping those very unevolved, like you said, childhood tantrums or teenage behaviors going well into adulthood, well on in years.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a little bit about the feminine for men and women, about those
Oh,
qualities.
can I tell you a little
Yes,
story about
please.
that? So I've got a little story about that one, that how it affected my life was, so I met this woman, and we were in a relationship for about 4 years, and she was a great teacher for me. And we would play volleyball, and she was so in her feminine energy that she would prance across the court. She was very much in
Fun,
very
play,
sexy,
yeah,
playful, but I judged her for being, irresponsible because she's so floaty out there in the
Yeah,
clouds.
having fun.
Right.
How dare you?
And she would drive her black BMW with her dog in front of her and not wear a dang safety belt. And that pissed me off because I have to follow the rules.
Right.
Why does she always get away with stuff?
Right.
So it caused
little
all this
tantrum.
judgment, right? So you can see how I was judging my own feminine nature.
Yeah.
And what I finally saw after that relationship ended is that how she was subconsciously or whatever was trying to show me a reflection of my own pushing away my own feminine nature.
Right.
And what's so cool about this whole thing is that, since I was growing up, I thought I wasn't creative, expressive, a singer, a dancer, an instrument, or a musician. And so I had this belief about me that I fit into this box. This is who I am. But then after that relationship, I started to play the drum, jump up and down. I
have some
started to
fun.
sing. I started to play the flute and the didgeridoo. And I bought a kilt. I wore a kilt, and I started to embrace all these things that I had pushed away. And you know what the cool thing is that embracing all that part of me, instead of me saying, this is my limited self, I said, I can be anything I want.
Right.
And I know what? I felt like a more of a complete man
Right.
by bringing that energy in.
Right. And this is what we're talking about with this balance or wholeness is it's about bringing the healthy feminine qualities on board here and evolving the jealousy, insecurity, judgment
Yeah.
for more compassion, allowing and acceptance and intuition and playfulness so that we can all feel more whole in our relationships with
Right.
ourselves or being able to make the choices of how we're navigating through life. So you make a great point about when the feminine is turned off. One of my clients who's very in his masculine, a New York executive and go, do. And he's very successful in it financially and in his business world and at the expense of the feminine aspect of himself because I was inviting the awareness of, do you play? Do you have fun? I don't have time for that.
I'm an adult.
He's like, dancing, that's a waste of time. And so there was also this judgment from somewhere in there because I know as a child he probably didn't say
Yeah.
playing is
Was
a waste of time.
time.
So that program came from somewhere else that says you're not worthy or that you're not good enough or you always have to be doing something. And that's that part of us that shuts down the feminine and says, no, you have to keep working instead of resting. Or you have to keep this together instead of allowing something to change or evolve. No, you have to force the deadline, you have to force the relationship,
Yeah.
you have to force your body. And
You can.
you can.
You can.
And it has its costs.
Yeah.
And so this is where we're getting into the masculine now. And so I wanted to acknowledge that because there's this whole part of him that was like, I don't play, I don't create, I don't have any time for
What
that.
if you did?
And I said, and it wasn't ready. It wasn't ready. And 6 months later, heart attack.
Oh.
Right? And, he's still, and that's what it took for him to say, wow, literally a heart attack.
Yeah.
That says, hey, time to love yourself, time to open to more love, time to be more loving and playful and letting those emotional frequencies in and embrace the joys of life.
Yeah.
Because
What are you doing it for?
what's the point? What's the point at the end of the last breath of life? If we've been overcompensating so much with the feminine or masculine being out of balance, then we're going to have that empty feeling.
There's two executives or company owners. I can't think of the name. Anyway, two people that I really admire about it seems like they've got a really good balance. One is Richard Branson.
Yeah. Yeah.
He guy plays. He has fun. He's got a ton of money. He's super successful.
Very humble and
Very humble
sweet and silly.
Yeah. He feels like he's connected with his sensitive side, and he's concerned about the welfare of people. And then you've got Elon Musk. He seems like another guy that's just, he's being a little boy. He's just creating, and he's super smart, and he's playing with these crazy ideas.
Because he's allowing the creativity to come in.
Yeah.
He's being receptive to technologies and insights and creative possibilities that aren't inside the box.
Exactly.
That's
So if
the
he was
feminine being receptive
if he was
and
all in
intuitive.
his masculine in his mind, he wouldn't be able to think of these crazy ideas that everybody says you can't do that.
Right.
He'd have to tap into his feminine.
Right.
Energy.
So that's how we switch over to the masculine, because the feminine will be the one that receives the idea that is creative and the inspiration.
Yeah.
And then it goes over to the masculine and the left side of the brain to say, how do we make it? How do we make this car? How do we actually create it? How do we get it done? So let's move over to the masculine a little bit and explore what it looks like for the masculine, for men and women. Where does that look like when that's out of balance? What are the unhealthy aspects of the masculine, you think?
Well, I know for me in the past when I've been out of balance, it's punching holes in walls.
Could it be aggression?
Aggression.
Right?
Yeah. Just I think of it like a little boy throwing a tantrum. He's on the floor and he's throwing a tantrum, and he's not going to listen to anything.
And this
Yeah.
tantrum is a little bit more aggressive
Yeah.
than the feminine, and I don't mean women, but the feminine tantrum is more drama. The masculine tantrum, the unhealthy masculine, is more destructive,
Yeah,
more aggressive.
yeah. Still
Definitely.
shutting down, but more in an aggressive
Violent way. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that would also, because those emotions are shut down most likely, then instead of going into drama or depression over here on the unhealthy masculine, we find addiction and sedation, because the pain is so great, and if we're not given permission to go feel and be sensitive, especially if there's programs or judgments about that, then there's all of this emotion that we just don't want to feel. And so that's where addictions come into play.
unhealthy action.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And there's all kinds of socially acceptable addictions
yeah.
these days to different foods and electronics and pornography and all kinds of different things, and alcohol and many, many substances that are just like, oh yeah, everybody sedates.
Yeah.
And that really comes from a place of not wanting to feel, and that would be part of an unhealthy masculine. What else is unhealthy masculine, do you think?
Well, I was thinking about it. How I did it too is I used to ride my motorcycle really fast.
Yeah.
Very aggressively, very
Right,
fast.
Right.
Yeah.
So irresponsible.
Right, yeah.
Right, definitely
Yeah.
irresponsible. I also feel here that this is not only aggressive, but the bully specifically
Yeah, yeah.
oppressing other people, because there is some part of self being oppressed, and so then it's overcompensating with bullying or oppressing other people.
Yeah, they say that bullies have been bullied.
For sure.
Victims have been victims.
Right.
So they're just kind of expressing, they're trying to gain their power back by, controlling someone else.
Right, and
Yeah.
so that all of this, what sits over here, is kind of like the narcissist and the unhealthy ego, and really more about a win-lose dynamic. The unhealthy masculine
Yeah.
really is like, look, I'll win, I'll get ahead. I don't care what cost it is to you.
Yeah.
I'll step on you to get ahead. I'll take the corner office. I'll take your wife. I'll do whatever. I really have no consequence or no thought, no remorse or no ethic.
Yeah, there's no
ethical-
thought about
yeah.
any damage to any other person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually had a session with a woman that was really she was in that relationship with the man that was in that he was abusing his own daughters, and then like putting them out there for other people to abuse, and he had no concern or
Remorse. It's beyond their
anything.
capability.
Yeah,
When
it's
the
just like
unhealthy
not even there
masculine-
at all.
When the unhealthy
Yeah.
masculine is really dark and really shadow,
Yeah.
it just doesn't have the capacity to consider impact or what is the effect on somebody else.
Yeah.
It is deeply narcissistic and concerned only with self, because they're really in survival mode here.
Yeah,
And
survival
survival
mode
mode
is
is not about anybody else's feelings, and so it can be very confusing to somebody that is working with somebody or dealing with somebody or related or married to somebody that is in a really deep unhealthy masculine pattern, because it's quite destructive, and without any thought about it, without
Yeah.
any care, and it can be like how do they not feel that? How does she not have any remorse? How does he not? Because maybe you're not in that place, so it's hard to understand that.
Yeah.
So this is aggression. This is definitely that kind of more win-lose dynamic.
No compassion, no empathy.
And competitive.
Yeah.
And this is, it's kind of interesting because, this is where some aspect of competitive sports sits in here. There's healthy competition, and there's also unhealthy competition where it's linked to self-worth and value that says, I have to win because
I have to conquer.
I have to
Yeah.
conquer, and I have to take this victory. I have to make somebody else suffer for me to feel accomplished or great or victorious. And, this is where unhealthy competition comes in, because, we want to be able to compete with others, but in a way in which that if I lose or if I win, I'm okay, and I don't need to, make somebody else feel bad or little.
Destroy them.
Destroy.
Yeah.
And so much. I was at a soccer game with a family member. So anyway, I was at a soccer game, and I was watching how a lot of the kids were being taught aggressively how to hate the other team. Like hate. It's a difference.
Yeah.
The difference with a healthy competition is, hey, I want to get better. I want to do better than I did last game. I want to pass better. I want to work, communicate better as a team.
Yeah.
Can we improve? That's healthy competition. This is,
Yeah.
can I grow? Can I improve? The unhealthy, I want to say hurtful things and I actually hate the other team.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Because it drives me. Yeah.
right? And so that's like
Yeah.
an unhealthy aspect of competition, driving from a place of destruction rather than creation,
Yeah.
and oppressing or beating somebody else, or the emotion of hate. And this is where we have hate crimes is coming in this quadrant of the lower masculine that loathes so much another group of people or a different sexual orientation or a different color, just because it's different or it's misunderstood or they were programmed to hate that. And so those are very unhealthy masculine emotions of hate.
Yeah, I was just watching a video recently about an indigenous woman that was projecting hate towards non-indigenous, and it was just so painful to see a woman in her feminine nature expressing such an unbalanced masculine,
Yeah.
like, I don't even see, I was just watching going, I feel that the pain of that,
Right.
and how that just is never going to work.
Right. It's not going to
Yeah.
evolve something.
Yeah.
And so this is the opportunity to evolve that into more healthy cooperation. Let's work together. And so the in the shortly after Trump got elected, there were a lot of women's marches and so forth. And I remember
Not so supportive?
no, there was definitely some, on both sides,
Yeah.
a lot of emotion. There
Yeah.
was a lot of unhealthy emotions on both sides within men and women
Yeah.
and within both political parties that were really just at odds with whatever you wanted to happen, whatever happened. And I remember my daughter at the time was going to one of the women's marches in Berkeley, at the San Francisco Women's March, and I said, hey, would you mind just taking a look at the Women's March and see how much is coming. Look at the signs, look at what is happening on their face, look at what kind of emotion is coming out, and listen to what the vibration is of what they're saying. And is it, hey, let's work together, let's rise above this, let's heal the pain, let's create new systems, let's create new dialogue, let's create new understanding, let's create a new paradigm for respecting each other. And how much is coming from anger and rage and violence and hate.
Yeah.
And she goes, Mom, way more than half were coming from that place.
Wow.
And so I want to acknowledge that the what you said, and then bullies and violence and all of that, it's coming from a wounded place.
Yeah.
And we're not going to come to a place of change and evolution if hate meets hate, if wound meets wound.
Right.
Someone's got to evolve and say, okay, yes, a dagger was thrown, and I don't want to throw a dagger back. It doesn't mean it was okay what you did or what was done, whatever happened, okay, and let's learn from it, let's grow from it, let's create something else. And so it was really interesting within the whole women's movement, there was this whole out of balance masculine and out of balance feminine that was coming from hate and anger.
That's a lethal combination.
It is, and and if we want to solve it, it's not for whatever issue you're really wanting to bring awareness and change to. It's not going to come from the unhealthy feminine throwing a tantrum and the unhealthy masculine throwing aggression and hate. Like that's not going to evolve the situation. I know that that's the part where we feel pain and wounded, and we can come with compassion and tenderness and heal that so that we can rise above it and come across these borders and come across these disagreements and find resolutions where there's a win-win.
Yeah.
So that was really surprising for me, because of course I want to support the women's movement, you bet. Of course I want to support women's empowerment, and I want to do it in a way that is more from that awakened state.
Yeah.
And so
That's what I felt at the Occupy movement on Wall Street years ago. So I felt like it was kind of happening there for a while,
Yeah.
maybe the whole time, but at least I saw a point where when they were taking a stand without any agenda, like these are the things that we want, that they were just saying, we're just not going to like give you somebody to attack. We're just going to say that we're tired of this kind of thing. And the fact that they didn't go head to head with the ones that wanted to argue, it wasn't an unbalanced masculine thing. It had
combative.
Yeah, it had like more of a balance to it.
Right, that unhealthy masculine is going to blame. It's your
Yeah.
fault and not take accountable for it, or be able to see the situation where it is. The feminine will see the situation where it is. Okay, the system is what is out of balance here, not
Yeah.
and the person is wounded. That's what's out of balance here. Okay,
Yeah.
well then how, if we look at what's happening in the prisons, if we look at what's happening with drugs, if we look at what's happening with drunk driving, or domestic violence, we want to look at what's deeper underneath that instead of blaming the
Right.
father or blaming the woman or blaming. It's like, okay, let's step back. There's wounds here.
Instead of creating more laws and regulations.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you know what I thought was really interesting about, especially with the all of the gun awareness that's happening from the different school shootings that have happened, and bringing awareness around perhaps the opportunity to shift the way we legislate firearms. And one of the most articulate people on this was an 18-year-old young woman who carried herself with the divine feminine and masculine. She was courageous and confident. She wasn't blaming or arrogant. Not a lot of drama. She was just basically like, there has been a lot of wounding. This cannot continue. And I thought, wow,
That is powerful. That's more powerful than screaming or rage. Yeah.
Than a tantrums.
Right.
Because it was articulate, it was intelligent, and when there's a tantrum, whether it's kind of more the unhealthy feminine or the unhealthy masculine, the walls go up. And if we're protesting or rioting, men or women, about anything or towards anyone from a place of aggression, the other side is, even if there's some valid arguments, even if there's some valid concerns there and there's some truth-telling going on,
Not going to be heard.
are not going to be heard.
Yeah.
The walls just go up immediately, and it does the opposite for your cause.
Yeah. And now the ego is up in front, speaking for spirit.
Or the wounded child, the
Yeah.
ego, the arrogance. I want to make you suffer because I'm suffering.
Right.
This is that win-lose situation. And we're not going to collectively win if somebody's always losing.
Yeah.
There's no way. So So let's dance over to the divine masculine.
All right.
And what does he look like? Because now remember, this is the right side of the body, the left side of the brain. And so if you've got a lot of injuries, the masculine
Right.
might be a little out of balance, if I'm honest. There's a few injuries.
I was always wondering,
And I was like,
is it because I'm right-handed, or is it
Or it's
because I
just
got some problem with divine masculine?
Divine masculine. It's like, is that hip, shoulder, neck,
my
all
whole
of that,
side.
whole right side. And I think as a society, there is a lot of out of balance masculine within men and women.
Yeah.
Overcompensating and go all the time. So what do you feel are some of those healthy divine
The
masculine
healthy
qualities?
ones that I really tap into is feeling like I can make a decision, because not because I've used primarily my brain, but I've used my brain as a tool, and I've checked in with myself. I checked in with my feelings, and I've checked in with, the environment. And I've used everything, and now I feel confident with that. So I know that I can make a decision, and I know that I feel like more of a protector energy. I feel like in the past, I know if there was a man not being very respectful to my lady, I wouldn't say anything. And now I would definitely say something or stand in front of her, instead of just going, well, I don't want to get into an argument or something. That was the part of me that was not that divine masculine. Not like I need to get into a fight with him, but it's that coming forward with that protective energy.
And it seems like that's woven in with integrity and honesty about standing for what is true, regardless of the consequences, and being courageous enough to stand, hey, ethically, this isn't feeling in alignment, and the willing to stand up for that.
Yeah.
courage,
Yeah.
integrity.
Yeah.
The one you hit on was decision making, and I like to refer to that as discernment.
Yeah.
Being
Good word.
able to make decisions. The masculine, this is where the linear does come in, is hey, no, this is crossing this ethical boundary, or this isn't true, or this isn't mine, or it doesn't fit. And all of those abilities to be able to be in a more of a masculine energy, to say no when you need to say no, or to stand up when you need to stand up, and to know how to do that with grace. This is where we bring the feminine in.
Yeah.
That isn't combative, but and that divine masculine that says ahimsa, or nonviolence, that says I can stand for truth without wielding a sword.
Yeah.
I can
Well,
stand
got the
in
sword
that.
down here instead of up here.
Let
Yeah.
it be a sword of discernment and a sword of truth, rather than a sword of destruction
Right.
or aggression. And
Yeah.
so this is where I think the divine masculine shifts the warrior on the battlefield to a spiritual warrior that is actually standing for nonviolence, truth, and ethics, and really embodying that, and courageous enough to face the consequences that are coming because of that.
Yeah.
Because when you stand for truth, there will be haters. When you are stepping out of the norm, when you do stand up for what is ethically right, that is going to elicit, if you're shaking the paradigm, that is going to elicit a response.
Yeah.
And being ready for that, to
Mm-hmm.
handle that.
I know the big one for men when they're standing in this divine masculine is to how do I say this, to love their brother, but don't allow them to be less than they can be,
Right.
kind of thing.
Right.
So if they are projecting themselves as an unhealthy behavior towards women, that I stand in front of that and I say, hey, brother.
Hey.
Yeah.
Or sister. It's
Yeah,
like
but
human.
it's just me and another brother is a
Right.
different dynamic.
Right.
That whereas in the past it'd be kind of like we're brothers and I don't want to like get into a fight with this guy. But now it's more like, no, you can do better than that,
Right.
kind of thing.
So this is this is where the opportunity for the masculine to stand for truth and do so in a way that says, let's rise together. This is
Yeah.
the win-win, instead of the tyrant or the bully or the dictator. The divine masculine is more collaborative. Let's work together. Let's be in harmony.
Yeah.
Let's figure out a solution, because you have ideas, or you have creativity, or you have a perspective that I don't, and that humility and willingness to be collaborative and cooperative so that we can all rise up to a win-win-win is really where I think the divine masculine is so essential right now, because we're looking to create the new paradigms on the planet. And it's going to take collaborative. We don't have to do it all on our own. And the divine masculine has that back of the divine higher power to provide a full pool of courage when we're moving into new territory, or we're trying new things, or building things that haven't been built before, or we're moving across boundaries or battle lines that we're like, wait, you mean I'm actually going to hug another man? Wait, I'm actually going to say I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Wait, I'm actually going to ask for help? And the divine masculine, I feel, is humble enough and courageous enough and intelligent enough to be collaborative and cooperative in those spaces, because that's where the real paradigm shift is going to happen.
Yeah, I like to imagine that, like a world where we're guided by the divine masculine and the divine feminine,
Right.
and where there's the need for that masculine energy. There's this. I was trying to think of like actors that portray that. Can you think of any actors?
Well,
that are...
Luke Skywalker,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, that's
right,
a great one. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
and so many that are coming. We have actually lots of role models for this.
Yeah,
where
we do.
Yoda, and we also have real humans doing this.
Yeah.
We have real humans standing for truth, and that's, I think, the most inspiring. Is when we see real people standing up and saying, I don't have to be this way any longer, I can evolve. And people, just like I said, the 18-year-old saying, look, I can be a part of change right now. I don't have to hold myself back. And so part of that divine masculine, I think, is authenticity and authentic power and the courage to lead. The divine masculine is a leader, the aspect of the woman or the man that says, I can make a difference and I'm here to serve something greater than myself, and it's time for me to get in the game. He's not afraid to be seen, which means he has to be courageous enough to face the onslaught of judgment, insecurity, and haters that are coming when you start stepping out.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of people don't step into truth and leadership. You know, just like you were saying, hey, before I was afraid of a punch or a blow that I might take, now it's energetic, or now it's on Instagram, or now it's, you know, a comment,
Yeah.
or it's something a relative or a close person says that goes deep in there and kind of really can hurt if we don't know who we are. If we're not in that embodied masculine where we're like, that's
Yeah.
not about me, or that's not true, or that's not mine, and able to use that sword to cut through all of that bullshit that isn't really true, to step into that place of
Yeah.
saying, no, you know what? It's time to call out big business. It's time to call out genetically modified foods. It's time to call out what's happening with the environment. It's time to call out what's happening with gun laws or
Hollywood and
yeah,
politics.
yeah,
and
politics,
all that's coming out
yeah,
too. Yeah.
hate crimes, all of these things, and the aspect of the divine masculine is going to be one that's going to be standing for truth there.
Yeah. I know my biggest challenge is, you know, coming into that was, yeah, I'm a Sagittarius, so I like to have fun. I like to be goofy. But you know what? I used to be really funny before. I mean, but a smart ass. Kind
Yeah,
of funny.
yeah,
like
yeah.
like a, you know, that kind of
Yes,
thing.
cynical, yeah.
And I was kind of bypassing that way of being that I didn't know how to be.
Yeah.
And so I used humor
Yeah.
and sarcasm to be liked.
Right. It's another avoidance
right.
technique that is also, I don't want to address the truth about how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Or I'm uncomfortable with how I'm feeling, so I'm going to use that
Right.
unhealthy sense of humor, which just can be very hurtful.
Yeah.
Right? And so other things about the divine masculine, and then we'll see how they work together. Any other things you want to mention about?
Well, I think a
divine
big part of that was what leads me to is that coming out of that little boy mentality.
Yeah.
Like just being a little boy. I remember there was a woman that had called me up years ago and said, she was kind of leaning into that we were going to have sex sometime. And then, you know, my little boy said, yeah. And then I said, yeah. And then I hung up, and then I had to call her back, and my integrity came in. And I said, you know what? No. And it's like I realized that that's a big piece of it, is that coming into that divine masculine and having respect for her and respect for myself, instead of just being in that immature
Right.
attitude.
And that's, you know, I say this with a lot of my clients, it's time for the big girl pants now. Or
Yeah.
it's time, you know, you're a
Big boy
grown
pants.
up. You're like 54, you're a grown up now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? It's time to leave that story. It's time to leave that victim. It's time to leave that old way of being behind and come into the power of who you truly are.
Yeah.
And stop giving it away. And so
Yeah.
that's what I think of in the divine masculine, is that authentic
Yeah.
power that is the man, that is the woman, that is uncompromising with who they are.
It affects every part of your
Everything.
life.
Right?
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
So this is what I get. This is what to me really lights me up about this topic, and I love teaching about this within couples and within individuals, to identify where in this quadrant is there some unhealthy feminine, is there some unhealthy masculine, because maybe that's what you were modeled as a kid, or
Yeah.
where it got socially reinforced. And do you have role models, and where can you evolve some of these qualities that we talked about to allow in more patience, more collaboration, more courage, more authenticity?
Raise the frequency of your relationships. Yeah.
So the balance is going to come, where the evolution and the wholeness for coming with the feminine and masculine is going to come two different ways, I think, is like evolving the unconscious qualities, and then also coming across and allowing the feminine and the masculine to work together within self.
Yeah.
So how have you started to link that circuitry together of your feminine and masculine? What does that look like in real life for you now?
I think for me, linking in the feminine nature is to allow me to let go of those old ways that don't serve me anymore, and being more flexible and being more compassionate and soft with someone's pain, instead of just going right to the fix on something, to go just getting into the emotional, because we are connected together now because we have a like vibration going on. So notice that person is in front of me because I have felt that thing myself.
Yeah.
So just to take the time for that compassion and empathy. Right. And then the other part of it is that balancing in that divine masculine is to, it's like now that I look at it, before, you know, I saw it as, something against me. She is being this way, and it's a pain in the ass. But now I look at it and it's like, had I put her there, had my higher self, my God self, put her there, why did I put her there? And she's being put there to challenge, to bring me up to my highest version of myself.
Right. This is the classroom. So every person, like what I'm hearing you say is that every experience, whether it's a person or a situation, is giving me the opportunity to evolve something that I'm feeling right now.
Yes, and I am creating it.
I am creating it. So this is how it evolves, is to allow every experience, every emotion, every circumstance to be the classroom to say, am I in my out of balance feminine? Am I in my out of balance masculine? How would the healthy feminine handle this right now with patience and compassion? How or listening, or maybe asking for assistance, or being creative or playful or flexible? And how would the divine masculine handle this right now? Might need to be honest, need to be integrity, might need to stand up for something, might be humble and apologize, or look for another way to unify. So
That's a great tool, by the way.
it is.
Yeah.
I love that. It's the classroom. Wow. Anytime anybody's triggering, like, oh, can't believe she's pulling that drama trick, or look at that jealousy, or that
If
infidelity,
she would just change.
or why is he abusing? Why is he still sedating? And going, where am I still sedating?
So many times I would ask myself, if she would just change, it would make it so much easier for me. And then there's a voice inside of me that goes, could it be that you're the one that needs to do the work?
Right.
Could it be that you could react in a different way? And that, it's something that I've been practicing, is seeing myself as a specific version of myself, that my I am presence is in partnership with the Daniel character.
Yeah.
And so when I do that, I kind of take myself out here and go, okay, then that must mean that there's another higher version of myself aware of all this. What would this higher version do?
Right.
If I didn't have all the crap that I'm been sticking to me, what would this, just as an experiment, what would the higher version do?
Right.
And I know the ego comes in there and goes, don't give yourself away.
Right.
Don't give up anything.
Don't apologize. Don't
apologize.
lose.
Yeah,
Don't let
lose.
them win.
Right. They're going to gain something over you.
Right. I think that you make a very good point about some higher version of self, because what happens within the divine feminine and the divine masculine is that they are having that connection. And so this might be leveling up and raising your bar with your spiritual connection, so that because we may not have been raised with role models so fabulously in both the feminine and masculine, and people that are really embodying both balanced and whole well, if that's the case and you're still navigating some programming, conditioning from the past, that having a role model that is embodying that is very helpful.
Yeah.
So being around people that are embodying those qualities, and also having a deeper spiritual connection, so that you're like, okay, well, let me bring in Mother Mary. How would Mother Mary treat me after I've made a mistake? How would Christ consciousness, how would Archangel Michael, how would my higher self treat me after this experience? Oh, I would be courageous to try it again, instead of just, okay, I failed and I'm a jerk now and I'm never going to do it. It was like, okay, how would the divine masculine, and if there is a connection to those qualities, rather than just going into our old program, and we don't have resources for how that works, having that divine connection has helped me learn courage, forgiveness, compassion, presence, patience, intuition, because I'm actually learning from those guides that have it embodied a lot more than I do, and can help me. I'll say, hey, help me. What does courage look like in this place? And that willingness to be open to receive divine guidance.
Yeah.
That allows me to evolve those qualities, even if I'm not necessarily seeing it embodied in my everyday life.
Yeah. It really does help to have some kind of a mentor, some kind of a model to see what that looks like, because we usually grow up and going through life and adulthood and relationship without any tools and awareness about this stuff. That's why I get so excited about working with couples, because like if they're on the edge of divorce or something, I'm like, I'm so glad that whatever got you here happens. You're here because you've been trying to do something without any awareness of what is possible and what the divine purpose of your relationship is. So we're so excited because now you're going to get to the starting line.
Right.
You know?
I mean, you get to see, because now awareness is one of those things that happens in the divine higher consciousness stasis. That makes me awareness of where I might be part of the problem here in my relationship, maybe, instead of just blaming the partner.
Yeah.
And when one or both parties is having part of those unhealthy masculine or feminine leading, then it's going to trigger that part of the others that's out of balance, feminine or masculine.
Yeah.
And so we get to see where it's triggering, because not because they have so much crap and you just need somebody that isn't have so much baggage, but it's more about, wow, what is this giving me the opportunity to respond differently to those lower frequencies,
Yeah.
and not be in this place of enabling that says, well, I need somebody more courageous because that's what I really need. Or I need somebody more creative because that's what I really need. And so a lot of times we're attracted to those people who have the qualities that we don't.
Yeah.
And then rather than allowing them to inspire us and model it, we're just like, okay, now I don't need to take care of the
Right.
finances, or I don't need to be the nurturer. You do it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need to be courageous, or I don't need to speak up because you take care of that. And now we're in a codependent relationship.
And that's what happens when the man falls into more of his feminine energy, and the woman falls more into she leans more into her masculine energy, so that she can feel more safe and get shit done and take care of things, because the guy has kind of gone, well, she's a little bit more masculine than I'm comfortable with, so he falls back into either he becomes combative with her, or he goes back into his, his coward, I'm going to go run away and do my thing. And then there's this resentment that happens between them, and then sex becomes, I don't know, do you want to have sex? I don't know. Do you feel like...
Yeah, if they're even talking about it.
Right.
Yeah, just a couple that I had 2 weeks ago, there was, he was just so much in that aggressive place, and she was playing that meek victim, and I'm like, well, that's not very sexy for either of you.
Yeah.
You don't feel respected, and you don't feel seen, and you don't feel safe. It's like, no wonder the sex is bad.
Yeah.
And it was like, if we shift these things, and there's more of a healthy masculine and a healthy feminine coming forward in both of them, so he could be more sensitive and he could soften his aggressor, and she could be more courageous and bring the masculine forward and stand up for herself and be more sensual and juicy. I'm like, now we're getting somewhere. And this is what it looks like in relationship.
Yeah.
This is what having the healthy masculine within both the man and the woman, or man and man, or woman, to be able to have a healthier dynamic when any of those out of balance, I'm being more accountable for those parts of me that are out of balance, instead of blaming you
Right.
and looking at your unbalanced, aspects, or your lower evolved, and saying that there's something wrong with you, where it's like, okay, well, how can I bring compassion and presence to that?
Yeah. And just keep on looking at, like, this is happening because it's a reflection of what's going on. That's the only reason.
Right?
Yeah.
And you should just be in that place of listening and witnessing.
Yeah.
And I think where it looks like in everyday life is the feminine feels and listens and is creative and is nurturing and kind of runs the diagnostic, if you will, and passes it over to the masculine that says, okay, based on what information we just collected, this is out of balance, this doesn't feel right, I'm overwhelmed here. Now let's send it over to the masculine, of where the masculine can start to take action to bring it into alignment, so that the feminine feels safe.
Yeah.
Right? And well, then let me be discerning, let me take action, let me be courageous and honest about what needs to change. And it feels like that's how we walk, the left and the right together in balance, listening and intuitive and creative, and then taking action and moving, and then listen again. Okay, I'm here now. Anything need to change? Let's keep getting insights as we go along this journey to kind of help direct how the action should go. How to direct the masculine, because he'll do it. If he has great advice, even better. If he has good information, then he's not, rubbing it, bumping his head against the wall.
Yeah.
Or reaching a ceiling that is like not allowing there to be new ideas and inspiration coming in.
You remind me of the conversation that we had on our hike.
Yes.
Something about that the feminine energy is the blossoming container, or something like
the chalice.
Yeah, the chalice, and then to support the masculine energy to
Right.
to root up and go and do and
She's that part that holds the seed.
yeah,
And he's that part where it's like, I'm going to be courageous and defy gravity.
yeah,
And inside of us, that's what's possible, is when we can heal those parts of us that when our container gets damaged, when our emotional body, when we can't hold space for somebody else, then that's an indication where we're getting triggered a lot. That's the opportunity to say, okay, what do I need to heal here? Where do I need to listen? Where do I need to feel? So that I can heal that part, and I'm not reaching for you to heal it for me and getting angry that you can't.
yeah,
And blaming you because you're not fixing my wounds. So then we can get into healthier relationships when we start to feel into that.
yeah,
It is, and to be accountable for, in our unconsciousness, from our programming, from whatever, to be accountable for where we might have caused harm. And that was another thing in our hike. When we say our hike, we went to this mountain that I'm looking at right there.
8.5 hour hike.
Yeah, it was like 13 hours to the divine masculine, to the mountain, which was a 13-mile plus hike to the mountain around the divine masculine. We had wonderful conversations, and I really appreciated our conversation also where you touched on just being accountable of where you had hurt others.
Yeah, well, it's man, that is a deep wound, and I know that some men might discount what I'm about to say, that they're not a part of it. But if you're what my friend Anthony calls a penis carrier, if you're a man, you're part of the energy of that. You may not have done what other men have done, but I know that in my past I've not treated women or girls like I would want to be treated, and I wasn't sensitive to them not wanting the attention that I was giving them, and that's part of the problem. And if I'm part of the problem, that hurts me deeply, and maybe that's why I'm on this path.
And so how do we evolve that? What is something that you did to help shift the way you treat women?
I looked at my stuff.
Yeah.
I think that, first of all, I realized and admitted that there's a problem, and I admitted that, how I've been conscious or unconscious towards women is not cool and can change, and there are other ways of being that I could still have fun in the world, and to start working on myself and look at the patterns and the beliefs that I had.
Yeah. Thank you for being really tender and genuine about that, and being accountable for where we've harmed others with our ignorance, with whatever, or from our woundedness. It doesn't matter why, or just because we were programmed to be that way, to fit in, or whatever it was. It's not about why. It's just, okay, that happened, and how can I evolve that so that I can meet that aspect of myself from these more evolved places of the divine feminine and masculine, be gentle, compassionate, honest, and accountable.
Yeah.
And I in that process for me, I realized, wow, in my overcompensating, where I didn't feel safe, or where I felt wounded by men, and in my victimhood, then I overcompensated with control and judgment, and I sedated with food and alcohol and sugar, and shopping, and it was like, wow, I'm actually hurting myself, and I'm actually not helping men evolve if I'm coming with such force and pain and anger from my past that is not allowing a man to heal those very qualities that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And judging them and expecting perfection. And I realized, wow, I'm part of the problem that is keeping that.
It's like,
down.
how's that working for you?
How is that working? It's like, no wonder there's marriage problems. No wonder there's challenges. And it's like, so that was also, and realizing as a parent about, of just, coming to that place of trying to control or force kids. And I was like, wait, I need to step back. And it was actually bringing the feminine forward, which wasn't as much present when I was growing up. The gentle feminine, my grandmother was that. And so I did have a role model for that. And my mom was that sometimes when I saw her, but it wasn't, really embodied as much. And so I got to feel into, wow, this whole feminine thing is blocked and shut down. I'm woman, but I'm not sensitive, compassionate, patient, tender, all of those qualities that in order for me to be a wonderful mother actually had to evolve pretty quickly. Otherwise, I would have destroyed both my daughter and my son. And realized that, wow, if I want to maintain this beautiful son and this beautiful daughter and not crush them, I want them to be whole within themselves. I want them to be sensitive. I want my son to be sensitive. I want my daughter to be strong. I also want her to be soft. I want my son to be creative and courageous. And so cultivating both qualities and pulling the gender out of it, and just realizing that, how can I model that? How can I inspire that if I'm all fissured here?
Right.
And so that was the same thing, doing a lot of the healing and looking at. And it's a total work in progress. Oh my gosh, total work in progress.
Just have a relationship.
With self, you know, with life, you know, and because it's all a classroom. Everything that you're experiencing, if you're watching and listening and you're finding this juicy, everything that triggers you, everything that scares you, everything that confuses you or
Gives
threatens
you any reaction.
Any reaction, what about it?
Don't ask that situation never happen again. Use that as a way you say, how can I react differently? Why did I react in that way? What's the underlying emotion behind that? What's the fear behind that? And how can I heal and integrate that?
And so that it becomes more responding than reacting. And we get to look. And even if there is an unconscious reaction, how can I now respond with compassion for that part of me that just screwed up?
And forgive myself for reacting that way.
And now hold myself accountable to improve.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, is just looking at those choices to say, okay, well, what can I do differently?
Yeah.
Where can I improve? Where can I grow? And we might need to ask for help. We might need to get in new content, because if it's been so socially reinforced, then we might need new circle of influence. We might need new content.
You can't get help from people that just want to
Keep
complain with you. You need to find people that are a bit higher consciousness, or at least in a place that can actually give you something that will stretch you a little bit and move you to a higher consciousness.
Well, and want you to evolve.
Yeah.
If you're my drinking buddy,
I don't want you to evolve.
I don't want you to. In fact, when you start moving away, I'm going to throw daggers to make sure you stay.
Right.
And so part of this evolution is coming more whole, is also being really real about this unconscious patterns, or what are the people, what are the thoughts, what are the habits and lifestyle that is keeping you there, and having the courage, divine masculine, and the patience, divine feminine, to help evolve and grow from those experiences and learn new qualities and new ways of being, new circles of influence, new content, new relationships.
I want to say to the men, a little message to the men, is that what we're talking about is, it doesn't have to be woo-woo. It doesn't have to be out there. You don't have to be all spiritual. But it is true. But it is real. But what we're talking about, these energies are real energies. And like, I want to say, is it serving you to not look at this? And it really does make our lives much more profound and much more beautiful when we have the courage to dive into this and look at this. It is great strength that causes us to look into this.
Yes. And I appreciate you saying that to the men, and I want to say to the women, we don't have to source our power from drama or insecurity. We don't have to source it from vanity. We don't have to source it from overcompensating, trying to take care of everything and control everything and do everything. We are plenty just how we are, the beautiful, amazing goddess. We can relax, we can trust, we can listen to our creativity and intuition, because that is where our power comes from. So I want to invite the sisters also to put down the backstabbing insecurities, or just the fear of being gentle and sensual and fabulous, because of the criticism that we've experienced from that, trying to be men. And it's just like, no, you're not. Don't.
Yeah, don't.
Be your fabulous, curvy, sensitive, whatever version of you.
We evolved men, need women to be their fully expressed, fully great selves. It doesn't serve anybody, it doesn't serve humanity to keep that whole paradigm going.
And within us, that part of us, for men and women, that is sensitive and creative, that's where the ideas and inspiration is going to come from. That's where the healing is going to happen, is in the tenderness and the compassion.
It's good for the planet.
It's good for everybody, right? It is. I just love it, because this is how we evolve humanity and what's happening with the planet. It absolutely is how we do that. It starts within self, to look at what can I evolve, and how can my feminine and masculine be working in harmony. And the image that I like to use as a butterfly is this left wing, all of those feminine qualities that are patient and creative and intuitive and playful and sensual and patient, all of this beautiful goddess energy. The left side of the body and the left wing, is it in harmony with this beautiful right wing that is the masculine, that is courageous, that is bold, that is authentic, that is an action taker and a leader and is ethical? And how can those be in harmony and fly with an open, compassionate heart? Because there's no way our wings can root in if the heart is closed. And so how our wings can root into the back of the heart and be this sacred union of our feminine and masculine. And then I'm not leaning on father, boyfriend, husband, sister, friend, anybody else, or career to define that for me. I'm free to be this myself. And it kind of dissolves the dynamic of codependent dramatic relationships.
Yeah. Now I'll speak back to the men again.
Yes, please.
I'll speak to you men. If you are complaining about the world,
Anybody. This is for
and
anybody.
you're not working on yourself, you're wasting your time.
Right. Right. That's for everybody.
Yeah.
That's for everybody. Because complaining and blaming is in those lower frequencies. Let's do something about it.
Yeah.
Let's be gentle about what's wrong. Let's be honest about it.
Yeah.
And let's start figuring out a different way.
Yeah.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so grateful. This has been so juicy.
Oh man,
We'll have you on the show lots of times,
Cool.
because we just love you so much. And also, we did another episode on the divine masculine,
Yeah.
awakening just the divine masculine, which was a real potent episode.
For men and women.
For men and women. So definitely tune into that.
Yeah.
But where can people find you?
Well, you can find me at danielofsedona.com, and it all leads to danielposney.com. And I'd love to give you a free gift if you'll let me sign up your email address to my list. And it's a copy of my book, which is called One White Stone. And One White Stone is a story of my 3,000-mile motorcycle trip from Sedona. I did a big loop, and I camped out in March, which wasn't the greatest time to do this trip. But it was a great trip on like kind of finding myself and having strength and faith in God, Creator, Spirit. And I want to give that to you. And I also have a rite of passage and, of course, counseling work and breath work and all kinds of cool stuff. But I want to direct you to danielposney.com/free gift, and that's where you can find that. Thank you.
Yes. And you can always find him here in Sedona.
Yes.
Because we're both here in Sedona.
Right on.
And I love that book. You gave me a copy of that a few years ago, and I love that. This kind of like walkabout journey for your own soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, real kind of vision
I read it and I go, hey
there's
that's
some
kind of
good
cool.
stuff. Who wrote this? OP. So yes, so definitely tune in and find Daniel. And I am here in Sedona, and find me at shamangelichealing.com. And this is my passion and my mission, to inspire millions to shine, to kind of shift their core wounds and step into the greatest, most radiant version of self with high performance coaching and training. And what I would love to offer a free gift is the chakra balancing audio visual for you today. So the link is going to be in the show notes. We'll make sure your links are all there too, Daniel. And so I want to give you that, and also 20% off the Divine Masculine online course, where we go into a little bit deeper with this subject. And of course, we do that here in Sedona as well. And so come and join us for the Empowerment and Awakening weekend, or a private healing session, anything. Or we'll come and do something with both of us.
Yeah,
Come here
Love
and
it.
spend a weekend and have some experiences with Daniel, have some experiences with me, and we'll go out on the land together, have amazing time and soulful healing
You will
to
not be
inspire.
disappointed.
You will not be
Yeah,
disappointed.
yeah,
You will come away with
yeah.
lots of
It'll be
tools.
life-changing.
Right.
Yeah.
So I also want to give you 20% off on the conscious relationship. Since we touched so much on the conscious relationships course, I want to give you 20% off on the conscious relationships course as well. So thank you for joining us. So grateful, right, for Daniel and for all the work that you've done so that you can be helping other people through this process, men and women, couples, all ages. Yeah, I know it's been a lot, and me too. It's been a lot for me too, and I'm constantly learning.
I can't stop it.
I know. That's what's fun about this journey. So thank you for tuning in. If you really felt that there was some pearl or some inspiration here with this beautiful episode, please like it, share it, subscribe, tag a friend so that they can hear this episode as well. And please give us a rave review. This is how we get the word out to millions of people so that other people can hear this content and other inspiring.
Yeah,
So
the more people, the better.
yes, the more people, the better. So please go check that out on iTunes and give us a rave review if you would, and we would love your feedback. Thank you so much, and we wish you the best in balancing your most beautiful feminine and your most amazing, awesome masculine so that you can be more whole and radiant and vibrant, serving humanity and the planet. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.